The world is reacting after Nicolás Maduro and his wife pleaded not guilty to narco-terrorism charges. Some Venezuelans calling his capture by U.S. forces, quote, a light at the end of the tunnel after his decades in power. Others seen holding banners reading, "Free President Maduro." Maduro saying in court today that he was, quote, kidnapped from his home in Caracas. He's now being held in a Brooklyn jail after that surprise attack from the United States. The question now remains, what do President Trump's plans mean for the people of Venezuela and for the U.S.'s relations with the rest of the world?
We have team coverage on this major news this afternoon. We've got Pamela Combe talking with people inside Venezuela, giving us a first-hand account of the weekend operation. And Spencer Tracy is at the airport where people are arriving on flights from South America. We begin with West 2's Stuart Moore breaking down Maduro's appearance in court today and the next moves from the White House.
Well, guys, Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Cilia Flores, are not seeking bail for now and are being held after pleading not guilty to those narco-terrorism charges. In that New York courtroom, Maduro said in part, quote, "I am innocent, I am not guilty, I am a decent man." When the judge asked if he would like to hear the indictment, Maduro told him, "I have it in my hands for the first time," and that he would rather read it through himself. After entering his not guilty plea, Maduro said, "I am still president of my country," before being cut off by the judge. Meanwhile, his wife has asked for medical attention, saying she has severe bruising on her ribs. Her lawyer suggesting she sustained injuries during her capture. The couple both were granted visits from officials from Venezuela. Their next court hearing will not be until March. Meanwhile, President Trump is now outlining his plan for Venezuela after saying the U.S. is in charge. He says Saturday the U.S. will run the country. He has also issued new threats against Colombia, Mexico, and Greenland, and said Cuba's regime will fall. He did not confirm if U.S. troops will be involved on the ground in any of those areas, but he issued a warning to Venezuela's interim leader, asking for cooperation or pay a very big price. That interim leader, Delcy Rodriguez, was sworn in this afternoon. Rodriguez served as Maduro's vice president. Now she's inviting the U.S. to collaborate with Venezuela, but says her country has a right to peace and sovereignty. Just today, Venezuela's National Assembly started a new term demanding Maduro's return. And today, the United Nations Security Council is also meeting. UN Secretary General saying he is deeply concerned by the U.S. military's action. The U.S. says this is not an occupation, but a law enforcement operation. Nancy, back to you.
All right, Stu, and now we're hearing from people inside Venezuela tonight. One witness describes a terrifying silence in the days that followed Maduro's capture. West 2's Pamela Combe joins us live now. Pamela, you also got new video that shows some of the destruction.
Yeah, and that's actually from a man who used to live here in Volusia County, actually over in Holly Hill, before he returned to Venezuela last year. And I will say getting a hold of him and other people in the country has been quite difficult because of Wi-Fi and cell phone outages. However, today we were able to video call with some of them, speak on the phone with others for a look and a feel of what it's like in Venezuela right now. This is the aftermath of strikes in Venezuela. One former Holly Hill resident who now lives in La Guaira shared this video with us, showing the destruction where he lives. Because of connection issues, we couldn't speak with him on the phone, but in a text message, he described the terrifying reality he and his 13-year-old son lived through on Saturday. He says, quote, "The explosions. I heard everything. It was the worst thing I've ever lived through in my life. That day, the window in my bedroom exploded right on top of us. Since then, the last couple of days have been difficult." Ciro Castañeda says, quote, "My son doesn't even want to go outside." One woman who lives in Caracas on the southern part of the city says she hasn't left home since Saturday. She says the quiet outside is unlike anything she's felt before. What I felt is a silence that's terrifying. People are really scared to go outside. Dora Davila Mendoza, who's also a historian and college professor in Venezuela, says the lines at the grocery stores are long. It seems to be the only place people want to go, and it's out of necessity. Other than that, once you step outside, she says the streets are dead quiet because there's fear of the unknown. I feel afraid because this has never happened to me before. There's also fear because the current government has exclusive communication systems among its members. They are groups that communicate internally, and suddenly ordinary people have no way of knowing what is happening. Because of that, people are scared. And because of the limited information and uncertainty, again, people are staying inside and stocking up on the necessities and really just waiting to see what comes next. Covering Volusia County Live, Pamela Combe, WESH 2 News.
Meantime, we are hearing from Florida's leaders for the first time since Maduro's capture. Republican U.S. Senators Rick Scott and Ashley Moody joined Venezuelan community members applauding the U.S. actions.
In my lifetime, he's the first president that really cared about Latin America. Yes. And he knows that we've got to make sure we have freedom and democracy in Latin America if we want to have a safe America. All right, we love all the people that have come to Miami, come all over Florida, come all over the United States, from countries that have had problems, but guess what? People want to live in their country. And what we want is we want more trade with these countries, more opportunities for these countries, and President Trump has done it.
Senator Scott says he got a call from Secretary of State Marco Rubio early Saturday morning. He says the removal of Nicolás Maduro will lead to more opportunity for Venezuelans. Democratic Congressman Maxwell Frost condemned the strikes in Venezuela, calling it dangerous and illegal.
Donald Trump is an authoritarian U.S. president who has decided to use Venezuela as a political pawn.
The Florida Democratic Party is echoing a similar sentiment. Party Chair Nikki Fried says she's hoping this opens a chance for true democracy in Venezuela, but also says, quote, Congress and the American people were entirely bypassed. Meantime, flights from South America are starting to land today at Orlando International Airport.
Several flights from Colombia have come in already, and that's where we find Spencer Tracy live at MCO this afternoon. So, Spencer, what are travelers saying? It's been pretty stressful.
Yeah, I mean, despite the stressful weekend that many of them might have had, they tell me that they experienced no stress, no delays, no cancellations. Everything went really smooth, which is awesome news. And they say they do have a message to Venezuelans once they arrived here. For some travelers coming from Colombia, that wasn't the issue. What stood out was what they heard before takeoff. My flight was fine, but what was surprising was that at the airport in Colombia, they were announcing flights to Venezuela. Over the weekend, there were flight restrictions following the U.S. military operation in Venezuela. It left many travelers stranded. We spoke with John Barrero, who lives here in Orlando but was visiting family in Colombia. I was on vacation since December 12th, visiting my parents. Barrero says while in Colombia, he has watched events unfold from thousands of miles away.
Según las noticias, ¿no? La frontera de Colombia en Cúcuta con Venezuela.
At the border of Colombia and Venezuela, people were crossing back into Venezuela, but what I've seen is a lot of Venezuelans are celebrating in Colombia. We also spoke with several other travelers arriving from Colombia, but many were too afraid to go on camera, telling us they were worried about potential consequences for speaking out. Barrero has a message as there is a lot of uncertainty.
Nunca es tarde para perder las esperanzas de volver al país.
It is never too late to lose hope of returning back to their country or reuniting with family. The U.S. gives them a great opportunity to return. May God bless Venezuelans. In last check, what we've seen on the arrival board is that all the flights have come in from Colombia here to Orlando. And last check, like I said, we are not seeing any delays, any major cancellations from across the country here. Of course, we'll keep an eye on it and give the latest on air and online at WESH.com. I'm covering Orange County live at MCO. Spencer Tracy, WESH 2 News.